Well, hey everyone, my name is Lindsay Hampson. This video is called Understanding Corporate or Company Sustainability. If you're starting to hear about this and you feel that your business is being left behind, or if you want to learn more about what your business can do in sustainability, this video is for you. My name is Lindsay Hampson. I'm the president of This Rock. We're an ESG and sustainability consulting firm that covers North America. We've helped dozens of businesses figure out sustainability. So let's talk about principles and practices. One statistic I think is very important is 90% of corporate executives think sustainability practices are important, but guess how many are actually doing it? 60%. So hop in, let's learn a little bit about what your company could do and what this corporate sustainability thing is. When people first hear about corporate sustainability, their brains immediately go to work from home, office space, co working spaces. I often hear this from people. Well, lots of our employees work from home, they'll say, or we let people work from home part time, or everyone's coming back into the office. So, yes, corporate sustainability does have to do with where your employees work and how efficient those spots are, how far they're commuting. But it's way more than that, too. Sustainability actually covers environmental, but also social and governance. So it's ESG. So we're talking about 14 main themes of sustainability. So then what is corporate sustainability? Well, it's perfect purpose beyond profit. So back 10, 15 years ago, we were talking about CSR, corporate social responsibility, and that was how what are we doing as a business for our community? But now sustainability really is talking about what could impact our business, how is our business impacting the world, people and planet. So what it looks like this year in 2014 is corporate sustainability has evolved beyond just mere compliance, just checking boxes. It's actually characterized by three things which are on the screen. And the first is strategic integration. So I see this all the time with my clients. They suddenly are asked by their biggest client that they need to pass some sustainability certification, or they need to produce their carbon footprint report, or they need to show their environmental or whistleblower or human rights policy. This happens all the time. So it's actually strategic to integrate sustainability into your business because you could stand to lose some of your biggest clients or maybe not win new proposals or bids with big companies because you haven't done sustainability at your business. Number two is just purpose driven. Every company started out because they were solving a business problem, started making money. But over time, what I see in businesses is that they have a mission and a purpose. So your employees want to work for a company that has this. People want to partner with a business that has this. So if you can really prove that your business cares in some aspect of sustainability, then that's a win. And three is innovation and efficiency. People don't often tie sustainability with profitability, but trust me, sustainability is profitable. And that's because when we look at a P&L statement, we look at revenue and expenses equals profit. Well, a lot of the levers we pull in sustainability are increasing your revenue or decreasing expenses. Let's say, for example, by getting more efficient with energy consumption, that can reduce. Increasing brand reputation can increase revenue. So there you go. The three purpose beyond profits. So you're probably asking right now, what is the difference between sustainability and ESG? And I just want to talk a little bit about ESG fast. ESG is environmental social governance. So environment would be things like energy consumption, water, waste, could be circularity, it could be procurement, it could be where your business is located. So lots of those things, greenhouse gas emissions. Then S is social, and that's making sure you're paying your employees fairly. So, wages. Do they all have a contract? What about health and safety? Are you tracking incidents, for example? And it could also be diversity. Are you training your team on harassment? Are you talking about that the outside of your business should start looking like the inside of your business? Those are the type of things. And then governance, G, ESG, governance. Governance is all about policies, procedures, making sure that the lowest paid employee is not making way, way, way less than the highest paid employee. It's talking about a whistleblower policy. So it's kind of tying the E and the S together. So let's talk about the three P's of corporate sustainability. They are people, profit, and planet. So we're talking about ESG basically in this, but it's making sure that things are balanced and that you're growing today and thriving today, but not at the expense of future generations' ability to thrive. That's kind of what it looks like. So this is making sure that you are being responsible with the way that your company produces, the way that your company deals with its waste, for example, the way that your company deals with products that your customers are done with. Companies out there are doing take back programs or the right to repair programs. That's kind of where I'm going with this. And that your business aims for long term viability. I'm working with a business right now that has been around for 50 years. And in order for them to be around for 50 more years, they can't ignore sustainability. They have to start looking at the physical and regulatory risks of climate change. Obviously, the way that we interact as people has changed over time. And so we need to deal with the social, making sure that we're, a fair place for employees to work. I really like the look at this next chart. So these are the pillars again for corporate social responsibility, but now we're getting in the weeds a little bit. So ESG should recognize that now, but we're looking at environment, economic, and social, and then tucked in between are some important aspects. So let's go to the first one, environmental. This would be your natural resource usage. So are you pulling a bunch of materials that are bad for the environment? Or are you cutting down a whole bunch of trees and not replacing them, for example? How are you in managing the environment? How are you talking about air pollution, noise pollution across all aspects of the globe? That would be environment. So how does that tie into economic? Well, can you use energy more efficiently? What about incentives for natural resource use? Maybe you could go to your suppliers and see if there's other options. So then we go down to economic, and this is obviously talking about the way a business is in business. And I'm a business owner, as I mentioned. So, of course, you have to be profitable as a business. Trust me, that always has to come into play. You have to think about saving money. You need to pay your employees. You need to think about economic growth, the future. How are you going to get there? Development. But you can't do that without people. And so that ties to social. So, are you treating your employees fairly? Are you thinking about their rights? Are they making a living wage? Will they stay with you? Because that's tied directly to profits. Remember, social is about the standard of living, making sure people feel like they're getting check-ins on their career development and progression, and that you're helping them become the person that they want to become, and you're helping them lift up in their current situation. And then over to social and environment. How does social play into the environment? Well, environmental justice, natural resource stewardship, and buying locally and globally. We have a client right now that the way that they're different is that they are local. They compete with some really big companies, but they manufacture their items in North America, which is very different than their competitors. And they're playing into that because they're supporting local, they're supporting their community, their people, and they're playing up the local resource environmental there. So sustainability is interesting because those couple of pillars interplay with a business model, which is very important to corporate sustainability. So when does your business transition? If you don't have a corporate sustainability plan or strategy today, when is the right move? Well, I'm actually seeing this a lot. So when I'm talking to a potential customer prospect, oftentimes they say, Lindsay, we've heard about this for a year and a half now from one of our big customers. They've been sending us emails once in a while, and we've, to be honest, been ignoring them. But we see that, we may not be a supplier of theirs next year if we're not doing this. So they understand it's time to transition. There's lots of reasons. I just gave one reason. So number one is customer demand. Your customers can't work with you. Maybe they prefer not to work with you, or maybe they just cannot work with you because of their own corporate policies if you don't have a sustainability certification, for example. So they have made a public commitment that they're going to be, for example, net zero by a certain date. And obviously, scope 3, when you know about scope 3 emissions, that's part of their supply chain. So if you're not being good and reporting up to them, then you can't be in their supply chain. So that's pretty crazy. So that's a big reason to transition to making sure you have corporate sustainability. 2 is regulatory pressure. We see this overseas, over in Europe, for example, that there's more regulatory pressure over there than here in North America so far. But governments are becoming more strict. Even in Canada and the US, we've started to see some standards or frameworks where they're suggesting how companies will report their climate-related issues. It could be about, starting to report scope 1 and 2 emissions. It could be starting to report labor and human rights metrics or policies. We're seeing these definitely today. We're even seeing anti-greenwashing bills come into play in the US and Canada. And finally, investor expectations. I'm seeing this too. We've had a couple clients recently that are just about to merge or get acquired. And one of the questions is, by the way, do you do ESG or do you do sustainability? And the answer has to be yes if you want to get that investment. So we're seeing people starting to figure out, what are their baselines for a year? Where are their policies? What are their measures? And how are they reporting on this? Are they training their people? And so this is happening because you're more attractive to an investor if you can quickly tick that box and say, yes, we do sustainability and provide a certification or a report. So I don't know if I ever mentioned this, but before I started This Rock, I used to work in B2B or business to business technology. I worked at IBM and SAP and some big tech companies. And now I look back and I have a lot of these folks on LinkedIn still, and I see some of the businesses that I used to work with or I was partnered with are starting to do corporate sustainability, which is really cool. So these are some of the things I'm seeing, not necessarily from the tech sector, but all sectors, but net zero commitments. I'm definitely seeing former colleagues talk about their company's net zero commitment. Now, remember, net zero means that a company would work out its current emissions or carbon dioxide, methane, any of those emissions they release into the atmosphere every year. And then they would figure out how they could get eventually over time, over a bunch of years, to net zero. So if they could never get rid of every single piece of emission, a piece of carbon, for example, through the production of their materials, for example, they would have to figure out a way to offset that to get to zero. So that's one thing I'm seeing. Definitely circular economy. I'm loving this. One of our customers is talking about how they are repurposing some of the materials they make. They're taking back the materials, making something new, and sending it back to customers. So we're talking more about how we can use materials in a more circular way rather than always having to use virgin materials. With that, take it from the ground, take it from the earth, use it, chuck it in the landfill. There's got to be a way that we can get more creative, and that actually is more profitable because it can reduce some of our expenses. 3 is climate risk mitigation. We're seeing this for sure. So for example, in restaurants, if we think about where a restaurant buys lettuce and there's some big climate risks or forest fires or rain bombs happening, they need to figure out a way that they can get lettuce or continue to get lettuce if something happens again and their supply chain is disrupted. Supply chain, sustainable supply chains, this is making sure that the supply chain they're using cares about sustainability as well. We're definitely seeing that. That's kind of what's happening in the industry right now. If you're in the supply chain of a big company, you need to get a sustainability certification or you can't continue to be a tier 1 supplier, for example. And finally, social equity. Definitely seeing this in North America coming up. Companies, for example, in Canada have to comply with a new modern slavery component in their business. So you'll start to see this popping up on companies that have a lot of employees and big revenue. The bottom of their website, they have to report on their modern slavery policy, for example. And speaking of tech, where I just talked about tech-driven sustainability is happening. People have a fancy word for it. It's clean tech. There is not a day that goes by that I don't see a new tech company trying to do something in sustainability. It could be a tech company putting smart gadgets all over a warehouse to figure out airflow or heat displacement to figure out the most efficient way to heat that facility or to cool that facility, which obviously drives down their expenses, but it can also increase sustainability at a business. So tech-driven sustainability for sure. There's lots of tech companies out there that also would calculate your greenhouse gas emissions for you automatically if they just scoop up your utility bills, or you can do that manually. Regenerative practices definitely happening. Super interesting. I'm finding this even in farming and agriculture, where companies are getting smart about how they grow crops in order to feed the public, consumers. Stakeholder engagement is in there for sure. We're seeing, pulse surveys going out to all areas of a business to make sure they're aligned with what sustainability should look like at the company. Sustainable finance is happening, absolutely. What companies to invest in, what companies to buy from, and how is sustainability looking at a giant bank, for example. And banks have big teams now that are sustainability, and they're figuring out where are their investments, how's their money going, what percentage of their investments are with companies that care about sustainability and which ones are in the kind of the naughty list, for example, and what percentage of their funds is going there as opposed to in a sustainable way. And then finally, just health and well-being. Well, we know this now after going through a bunch of years here with technology evolution happening so rapidly, with COVID-19, for example, with AI and ChatGPT taking over. We know that focusing on the health and well-being of an employee as change is happening so rapidly is important so that they don't burn out, they don't get discouraged, and that we can grow as a company and leverage new technologies, new issues with being empowered. It's interesting to look back and see kind of where we came. I mentioned CSR and ESG. So how is sustainability different than what we used to do or we used to talk about? Well, the people that worked on CSR were kind of isolated. It was, come up with a report about all that we're doing in the community, for example. Now it's happening that things are becoming integrated into the company's business strategy, and these factors of sustainability are being brought up in the senior leadership team meeting or at the board level. So sustainability is not, the marketing person and the HR person, going into a room and pulling numbers for the end of the month. It's more integrated into the overall strategy. It's also proactive rather than reactive, hopefully. Usually people get kick-started into sustainability because they've had to do it. It's reactive. But over time, it's now happening that it's more proactive. Companies are starting to address sustainability, have policies, understand they need certain certifications annually because they just know that's what you have to do if you're in that industry. Then it's innovation over compliance. People want to focus on being smart and innovative, not just ticking boxes. Although it's important to tick the boxes, you need to figure out a way that you can innovate and get creative and save your business money or increase your business as profitability by being sustainable. So you have smart people on your team. There's smart experts out there. Use them. And finally, transparency over accountability. People are demanding disclosures. So it's one thing to just say, yes, we have a target. It's a big one to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, for example. But how are you getting there? People want to see how you're getting there. They want you to be super transparent. And this takes me back to the anti-greenwashing bill, where you can't just say that you're doing things to reduce energy consumption. It needs to be more substantive in order for us to believe it. So these are the 4 trends that I'm definitely seeing in corporate sustainability. So to recap, there's lots of factors driving corporate sustainability. It's definitely happening in the investment world. I'm not sure that there is an investor out there not thinking about sustainability. If they're not necessarily thinking about ESG, they might be thinking about even just the climate risks of buying this business. Is there a problem with the area, or is there some regulatory thing that may happen in this business, or are they going to get flagged and have a bad reputation for treating employees bad, for example? Then customer demand or consumer demand. It's happening. I can't say this enough. I'm definitely seeing this in SMEs, those businesses are starting to get pressure to have sustainability plans, reports, certifications. Then regulatory requirements. I don't have a magic ball here, a magic 8 ball, but I can imagine in 5 years from now, the landscape of regulatory requirements will look quite different. And companies will be annually reporting like they do on other things, but they'll also be reporting non-financial data. That could be, what is their scope 1 emissions for the year? How are they against their target? How are they doing with health and safety? That sort of thing. Then talent attraction and retention. So if we're looking for a pool of good candidates to come, we want to show our mission and vision. I know that's a bit cheesy, but if we can align our company to some of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17. If your company could pick 2 or 3 that really speak to your business, like climate action or life on land, life below water, for example, it could be innovation and business. If you can speak to a few things that matter to you and tie it to the overall good of our globe and our people, then that's important in talent acquisition. Then productivity and cost savings. I have a video all about how I go through a P&L statement and how sustainability is profitable for a business, driving up revenue, driving down expenses, profitability. And finally, risk mitigation or risk management. We talk about cybersecurity all the time now. We're looking at ways that we could be infiltrated at our business and that could pull down our business. Well, we need to start doing this with other things like climate risk or a regulatory risk. What are the physical risks of climate change that could impact your business? And how are you going to mitigate it? Is this being looked at the board level? Is your management team thinking about this every year? Do you have plans in place or not? So how do you start? What are some best practices? Well, I always say get your baselines. Go and figure out where your company is across the 14 main themes of sustainability. But you need to set a clear goal. So what areas are important to you? Do you need to look at all of them? Or are you going to just look at a few for your first step? Are you going to align to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which I just mentioned? Then it would be integrating sustainability as a core to your business. So this would be looking at your mission and values, ensuring your leadership is aligned and educated and that your employees are engaged. So oftentimes what I see is the startup of an environmental or sustainability committee that people can join. Or maybe once a month, there's a delivery to all employees about an interesting personal life sustainability topic for their personal life. Then it would be regular monitoring and reporting. So now that you have your baselines and you've educated your people, are you monitoring those things that you talked about? So are you looking at kilowatt hours across your 3 main offices, for example? Are you starting to see what percentage of your employees are being paid a living wage, for example? You can use tools or frameworks like the GRI or SASB. I have my certification in SASB. There's lots of these kind of standards or frameworks out there, but they're important because it's not fluffy and wishy-washy. You're using an Excel sheet that has been pulled from one of these globally accepted frameworks. Then you want to communicate progress. So people have impact reports or sustainability reports on their website. They share it internally and externally. And finally, collaborating with your shareholders or stakeholders. So this could be as simple as going back to that big client and saying, hey, we passed. Here's our scorecard on sustainability. And by the way, here's our new sustainability report. Can we meet with you every quarter and talk a little bit about your new expectations of our business on sustainability? So, and maybe there'll become a time where you look down your supply chain and start asking your top 10 suppliers if they're being sustainable or not. So that's corporate sustainability in a nutshell. I hope this video was helpful to you. We covered a bunch of stuff. We covered why would you do this, what it looks like, what are some of the ways to start, what are the gotchas, and how your business might get going in the next couple of months. If you ever have any questions about certifications or what sustainability looks like at your business today, current state, I'm always happy to chat. You can go to our website and reach out through the contact us, or just book 15 minutes on my calendar and we can hop on a call and talk. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate your time, and I'm wishing you the best of luck as you roll out sustainability at your business. All right, have a great week. See ya.